Hello, and I hope everyone is staying safe today. It brings me great pleasure to bring to you God's Word to God's people. Today's word comes from Acts chapter 24, verses 1 to 23, and it's called Paul before Felix at Caesarea and Paul's defense before Felix. I have, of course, affectionately renamed it a play on words, a play on words. Many of us have received a compliment a time or two in our lives. A compliment can boost us up, make us give ourselves a little brush on the shoulder, or it can even make us do a George Jefferson strut with our arms swinging behind us in victory of accomplishing something great. A compliment can tease our ears and ladle us with a feeling of euphoric sense of well-being. But there is another side or purpose to a compliment. It can have an ulterior motive because it can be given with the idea of receiving something in return. As we read the text in Acts chapter 24, verses 1 to 23, we learn that Paul, who was once Saul, a persecutor of anyone believing in Jesus Christ, is brought to Felix, the governor of Caesarea. Prior to being brought to the governor, there was a plot by the Jews to kill Paul because of what he was saying to the council about his conversion to Christianity, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, angels, and spirits. The Pharisees and the Sadducees began to argue about what Paul was saying during the council. Some of them believed Paul and some of them did not. When Paul is before Felix the governor, the attorney, Tertullus, begins his case against Paul by complimenting the governor. He tells the governor that he's the reason why the people have enjoyed peace and reforms, and it's all because of the governor's foresight. Tertullus continues to pour it on thick by saying, "We don't want to hold you up, governor, and take too much time or advantage of your graciousness. But this man, Paul, let me tell you about Paul. Paul is a pestilent fellow. He's a ringleader of the believers in Jesus Christ, and he's an agitator who tried to profane the temple." Then Tertullus ends his rant against Paul by saying to the governor, You're a smart man. Talk to him and you'll see that what I'm saying about him is true." Paul begins his defense with the same zeal for words as Tertullus. He compliments the governor by saying he is cheerful that he has been the judge over the nation for many years. He appeals to the governor's intellect and his decision-making. Paul also states that no one can prove those allegations against him. Where's your proof? Paul admits that he worships God according to the way, which the way back then meant worshiping Jesus Christ, believing everything according to the law or written by the prophets, which Mosaic laws. He says he was in the temple practicing purification, and that when he was before the council, he spoke a sentence about the resurrection of the dead. And everything went from downhill from there. That's what actually did Paul in, talking about the resurrection of the dead, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Hearing all of this, the governor, who was familiar with the way, he was familiar with Jesus Christ, the resurrection of the dead, and salvation. He decides to make a decision much later in Paul's case. He keeps Paul in custody, but he lets him have some freedoms, and he lets his friends visit him to take care of him and to take care of Paul's every need. So what does this mean for us? Well, I am so very glad you asked. It could mean that knowing Jesus Christ is having discernment about words we hear when others are speaking to us. There goes those compliments again. It could also mean that Jesus is in the hearts of many, and we can't tell by the way they look, the job they have, or how they act. Jesus may be in there. Use his words and he'll show up. Until we meet again, have a blessed and wonderful day.